If you need to replace the brake lever, the throttle unit, the LCD display or the front light, you will need to take the whole stem unit off the top of the scooter. There are various bolts that will need to be removed in order to remove the stem. 2 either side of the stem, then there are 3 at the front, above and below the light. You will also need to remove the brake cable from the brake unit and disconnect it from the rear in order to actually remove the brake lever. Now the brake lever will actually come apart with the stem because the brake light cable is actually connected to the PCB board along with the throttle cable. Should just lift off. And that's it. And then you just disconnect the stem from the scooter by unplugging the cable. Right, so now that we've got the stem off the scooter, we can take it further apart to get behind the display. So this is where the throttle cable and the brake light cable are connected. And if you can see in there, I don't think you can, but there are 4 screws that will need to be removed. So we shall now do that. Right, now that we've got the handlebar stem off the top of the scooter, we can get access to the throttle cable, the brake lights cable, the light, and these are all connected to the back of the LCD display, which is accessed by removing these 4 screws. So we'll do that now. Right, so that's the LCD lid off, and then you've got the cable for the brake light, you've got the light cable, you've got the throttle cable, and then you've got the cable that goes to the controller unit and the battery area, which is this one. So depending on what you need to repair or replace, you can either just unplug the ones that you need, or if you need to actually replace the board or the LCD, the unit itself, then there's 3 more screws here that you can undo and replace that. So let's remove the brake. So on the front you can actually move the light, and then behind the light there's a little padding washer, and then inside there there's a hole where they all feed, the wires feed through into the top. Okay, so that's the brake removed. Now if we need to remove the light, move that wire out of the way. That's the light removed. And now it is the throttle. So for the throttle, I think I'll just undo the board as well, do it at the same time. So there's 3 screws to replace. Sorry, to remove. Okay, so that's the board, or PCB board if you need to replace that. And for the throttle, just undo this one. And that's the LCD board. removed. And for the throttle, you can take the sleeve off. And then in there, there's an Allen screw that you can you'll have to undo to get that off. That pins it to the handlebar. So I'll just get the correct tool for that. And that's the throttle out. And then if the throttle is broken, then you can put a new throttle on. If your brake light's broken, you can put a new brake lever on, and same with the light. Now with the throttle, the most common problem is actually the spring actually coming off. If that's the case, you don't actually have to need to buy a new one of these, because you can actually take this apart and then get access to the spring and put this spring back on its pin. We'll do a video on how to do that at some point. Right, and to put everything back together again, exactly the same process but in reverse. So you just need to make sure you've got the holes lined up for the throttle. That's it. Right, that's the throttle done. Alright, now we can put everything back together, remembering how the cables go. So put the brake and the throttle cables through the hole, and then also the light. Okay, so they're all through. Right, so two of the cables actually go under the board, so that the one that goes to the battery controller, and also the throttle, which is the fatter of the cables. So plug those two in first. You can then mount the LCD display while getting the throttle cable coming up from underneath. You'll see what I mean. Okay, so that's in place. You may as well just put the other cables in to keep them out of the way. Okay, so I'll just mount this back in for now. Right, so the brake light cable goes round, move it nearer, round there. The light goes around that one, and this one coming up from the board. So this is the throttle cable, and so that just needs to be prised down a little bit so the lid will go back on. That's all done. Just really put the lid back on and putting the 4 screws back in and mounting the light. That's it, and that's all put together, back together, ready to go back on the scooter. It's fairly simple, straightforward. It can be fiddly. Take your time and you'll be all fine. The hardest bit really is when you put it back together again, to get all the wires through the small hole. So just take your time. There's a little groove, they fit in the groove. Another tip is have a screwdriver with a long shaft, so that you can get at these screws. Right, and we'll now put it back on the scooter.